Is it Brandon Moats you guys are talking about?
Date is February
Hear that?
27th, 2020. The time now is approximately 17:48 hours. This is in reference to Orange County
Yes.
case number
There will be a hearing. They'll probably cover it in Monday's hearing.
20-017904. I'm currently located at 4748 France Lane, apartment number 2. France Court.
Will you guys, if you can hear the audio of the detective and the
Yeah, because
neighbor,
you can see it on the sign over there.
Drop a
on the
one, just-
4749. It's French
Okay,
Court.
France Court.
so I know if I
Yeah,
need to stop it.
It's weird. For some reason, all of the signs are on the
Okay.
opposites. Are
Thanks,
on
Angel,
the wrong
baby.
side
On
of
the wrong-
building.
yeah, the
So
further
that's
side.
apartment 8 there, and the sign's right there on that one.
Gotcha. Okay. France Court. Apartment number 2 at the Tealwood Parks apartment. And I'm speaking with, can you state your name
It's Brandon Knights.
and your date of birth?
April 19th, year 2000.
Okay. And you reside at this
Tuesday,
apartment,
sorry.
is that correct?
9-3.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you said that you've been living here since January of 2019?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. On Sunday, which would have been,
The 4th,
let's just double check. Sunday was the 23rd.
23rd.
Were you home that day?
I would have come home a little late that evening, but I would have been here around 8, 9 o'clock. I would have gotten in around 8 or 9 o'clock.
PM.
Yes.
Okay. And so your apartment is right next to apartment number 3. Does your apartment share walls with theirs?
My bedroom shares the wall with the lower half of their apartment.
The lower half. Okay. Do you recall hearing anything coming from apartment 3 while you were after you had gotten home?
Around 10:30 or 11 o'clock, there was a very loud crashing sound where I believe, I'm not sure, I haven't been in their apartment like my roommate, but I believe is the location of the staircase.
Okay,
So a little bit above.
A very loud, you said crashing sound?
Yeah, like it sounded like something had been like falling down the stairs. Because it started up high and then it ended low.
Okay. And when you heard the loud crashing sound, did you hear any voices? Like, could you make out if you heard a male or female's voice?
I couldn't hear anything, no.
Okay. Is that normal for you to hear noises coming from their apartment?
Not loud. But
Not that loud?
Not that loud.
Okay.
But I'll regularly hear like thudding sounds, like stuff being like slammed against the wall or something like that.
Okay. Have you ever heard voices? Have you ever been able to determine?
I've always kind of like tuned out if I was hearing voices.
If you heard something, yeah. Okay. But you have heard loud noises in the past, but not as loud as you had heard on Sunday night.
No, it never been that. I felt the walls shake.
Okay.
As the sound happened.
And do you know either of them? Like, do you know?
I've had a few brief interactions.
So I stopped it for a second because that's a one. Everybody is debating if something went down the stairs, but he clearly is saying he heard something go from the top to the bottom. It was very loud and the walls were shaking. If that's not George in the suitcase, I'm open for other alternative thoughts of what it is going down the stairs.
With them.
Okay.
I don't.
Like, do you know who lives there? Like,
yes.
Can you describe who lives there for me?
It is a sort of, I guess, like middle age. I don't know, like around 40s, blonde woman.
Okay.
And a Hispanic gentleman, I believe so. I haven't interacted with him much. I've spoken to her a few times.
You've spoken to her a few times. Okay. Anyone else live there?
I believe they have a little boy.
A small child. Okay. Okay. When you have seen them around, how do they appear to you?
They almost always seem either like tired or like tweaked out.
Tweaked out.
Yeah.
Okay. The conversations you had, the interactions you've had with the female, like, what do you mean interactions?
I remember one night she slept on the back porch of my apartment for some reason. I don't remember much, but I just remember like looking at the shade and seeing her like laid down.
Okay. Do you recall like maybe what month this was?
I say we should have a pool because that is a bet I would get in on. How, when and what reason she'll kick off the attorney from her case. My thing is though, in our age, I hope she won't because then she knows she's on her own again, right? And she wasn't doing well on her own. But what do you guys think? Will this man make it to trial?
I couldn't say. It was pretty early when I moved in. I would say the summer of 2019.
Summer of 2019. Okay. Did you wake her or?
No, I just.
Okay. And by sleeping, you guys all have like a cement area, right?
Yes.
Like a back patio,
Yes.
but it's not enclosed.
No.
Was she in a chair on the ground
Like
or
on the ground.
on the ground? Okay.
I don't have any chairs on our back porch.
Okay. Any other run-ins with her? Things you've witnessed with her?
I was coming home from class one night. I would not be able to give you a time period on this.
Sure,
I don't remember when it is. And I was waiting on my roommate to get home because I had left my keys in the apartment.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember she came over and was talking to me for a minute, and it was very visible that like she was talking to me because she didn't want to be in her apartment.
Okay.
I don't know why, like I didn't ask, but it was just very evident that she didn't want to be there.
Do you remember anything she was saying?
No.
Her demeanor?
It was, she seemed like skittish, like nervous.
Okay.
I don't remember anything we talked about because, in complete honesty, when I was just, it was in one ear and out the other.
Right, yeah, you were just kind of, right.
With vague nothing.
Okay. Did she appear to be on anything at that point, or just she seemed nervous?
She seemed nervous.
Okay.
She didn't seem like high or anything. She just seemed out of it.
Okay.
I would chalk it up to be more like tired and paranoid or nervous, stuff like that.
Okay. God bless him. But is he an expert on when someone is high? Like, I don't understand. And he said he didn't see her that often. She seemed nervous. Because this is the one who says it's all about perspective, right? He's the one who ends up saying that George is a bad dude. So if you think that someone is living with the person who is bad, maybe you perceive nervousness when it's something else. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. And any other interactions with her?
No. Honestly, from the few times I had spoken to her, like anytime I saw her, I kind of just tried to go straight into my apartment.
Right.
There's a few times where I would walk past and she'd say hi or something, and I would just kind of lie and be like, oh, I'm only going to be here for like 10 minutes. I just got to change and head back to class or something. Like I tried to avoid.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Did you ever witness either of them on their back porch patio?
No, I don't walk that direction.
Okay.
Right? I don't have any reason to go like that.
Right. You guys don't have any like dogs or anything that you have to walk?
I don't have any pets.
There you go. Okay. Any interactions with the Hispanic male?
No, not that I can recall.
No. Okay. Okay, is there anything else that you think is important for me to know about them and anything you've heard or witnessed between the two of them?
It seemed like an abusive relationship. Just from every time I heard them, every time like I saw the two of them, it seemed rough.
Okay. Okay.
It's one of those things where like he was a bad guy. He was a bad guy.
Mhm. Okay. All right. Is there anything else that you think is important for me to know?
Nothing I can think of. No.
Okay. Do you mind raising your right hand for me? Do you promise and swear everything we?
I was muted. Sorry. Where did he get that from? That George was a bad dude. He said he hardly ever interacted with him. He talked to Sarah on occasion, and she seemed nervous. So it's got to be like from what Sarah is telling him, and you can see how Sarah has influence over people that are only interacting with her for a short time, right? From what we've seen from her interviews and her interactions in court, it's like only now that we know Sarah, or that we've watched her, and we don't know her. I don't want to know her. We've watched her interactions. We know how manipulative she is, but this guy wouldn't know that, right? I just thought that was telling when he was like he was a bad dude, but he said like 3 seconds before he really didn't interact with him. I want to play one more. I want to play the brothers interview because I'm working on a timeline, and so I'll show you guys the timeline, but first these are the receipts before we get to the time. This is the Juan Torres video. Sorry about that, guys.
In the couple hours before, I'm currently located in my unmarked agency vehicle outside of 8315 Baja Boulevard in Orlando, Florida.
Sorry, I was hearing it in my ears.
Partner,
Scott Lower.
And in the front seat is, sir, can you state your name for me?
Juan Torres.
And your birthday?
1/11/81.
Okay. And you are the brother to George Torres Jr., correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. It came to my your parents had explained to me that you had a conversation with George.
Thank you, Victoria.
A few days ago. Do you recall that specific date?
Yes. It was Sunday.
On Sunday. So Sunday, we're looking at the calendar together. The 23rd.
The 23rd.
Okay, so February 23rd, you guys had a conversation. Do you recall what time that conversation took place?
7:30. Oh, it finished at 7:30.
Do you remember what time it started? Do you by any chance still have it in your call log?
Does it do it when? So it had to be 7:30. Because when you call it, clocks it. It doesn't do it at the end. It starts it.
It starts it, and
so
then it tells you how long you talk for.
So it was 7:30.
Okay. If you do have it in your call log, I'd love to take a picture of it if you still have it.
It's Monday. Sunday right here.
So it'd be Sarah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But,
if you click, I'm just gonna.
Yeah.
There we go. Do you mind if I take a photo?
No, it's fine.
Okay. And so it says you received an incoming call at 7:30, and you guys spoke for 4 minutes.
Yes. We was talking. I was playing dominoes with my kids and my wife. And at first I wasn't gonna pick it up. Then I picked up.
Okay.
Because they were always fighting and stuff with the
Okay.
alcohol. So he started talking to me. He was calm. So I was like, oh, okay. So I put it on speaker. So my kids are there, like they joke around with him, and he was joking around with them. And we're talking, and then he's talking to me about when we was kids. And then, like a couple minutes after that, that's when I hear in the back start arguing with him. No, I have to call my brother. I have to talk to him. And he's like, no, I'm talking to my brother. It was her phone. So, and then she starts arguing and telling him that, no, tell him what you've been doing to me. You choked me, this and that. But he was calm. And he was like, okay, I gotta let you go. And then he said, I love you. And then I told him I love you. And basically that was it.
So she yells in the background, tell him what you've been doing to me.
Yeah.
You've been choking me.
Yeah.
Did you ask him anything about that?
No, because the thing with them, they would fight and they would hit each other. Because there was times he came here and she had hit him with a phone and he had a black eye. So it was like...
Did you witness that?
I didn't get to see it, but
Okay.
he told me himself.
Okay.
So
you guys know that there's domestic between the two?
Between them. And I told him, get out of there, get out of there. I would tell him, leave. And what's crazy is that he would leave, come here, and she would call and tell him to come back, and she would come and get him. Mm-hmm. So she had the car, he didn't have a car.
Right.
Really fast. Remember that, because in Sarah's interrogation, she said George would always come after her. Remember, she'd be waiting outside, and on his way to work over some wall or something, he would come in there. But the brother is saying she always lured George back. And then he also said, she had the car. George did not have a driver's license according to the public records. He had an ID. And if you guys saw that one, what was it? The guy on... It made national news. It went viral. The one in Judge Simpson's court who was driving while he was on a suspended license, and he tried to say it was the court's fault or somebody's fault, when really what happened was he hadn't paid his child support, and so they put a suspension out, but it's only a suspension if you actually have a license. That's just a thing that they do. He had never had a license because he had an ID, and Judge Simpson was like, you can't have both. So he only had an ID. He did not have a driver's license. I can't tell if he had one when he was in Philadelphia, but because the brother just said that, it makes me think that he can drive. He just didn't have a license. He went around on a bicycle. Okay, just let's finish with that. I just wanted to throw that in there.
So
you said that he sounded calm.
He was calm, relaxed. Like he would... I can tell because my brother's been drinking for a long time. Mm-hmm. We tried to get him help before.
Right.
And I can tell when he was like really drunk, and he wasn't that drunk that night.
He wasn't.
So when you're describing him as calm, that's an indication that he hadn't been drinking that much.
That he wasn't that drunk. No.
Okay. When he's been drinking, does he get really excited?
Sometimes he gets excited, and you can tell he like slurs his words, and he like, and I can tell like he gets really emotional, and sometimes starts crying and.
Okay. And none of that happened that
No,
night?
none of that.
Have you ever witnessed them physically fight?
I've seen them because I've been to their house, and she's come out all crazy. I went over with my wife, and they had called me to go over there. She had called me to go over there.
Sarah?
Sarah had.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, I'll come over. That he wanted to see me, so I went over, and as soon as I get there, she comes out crazy because she saw some guy peeing around the corner, and she was trying to fight the guy and argue with the guy, and my brother was like, yo, calm down, just calm down. And it was like, I went to that. That's why I would try to avoid everything. Like I would call, whenever he called me, I talked to him. I tried to talk to him, but it was always like they were always.
Did she physically touch George, or was she just getting really upset and
like she came out upset? But there's a person, I can't remember, somebody seen him because he was on a bike one day, and he told me, I can't remember the person it was because he was on a bicycle and she hit him with the car. And I can't remember who the person was, and he told me.
Okay. Have you ever seen any marks on George?
Yeah, around his neck, eye.
Like what kind of marks?
Like
Okay, one more time. It sounds like he's crying, right? Like I feel like this is a normal response when your loved one has died the day before. I'd never heard this from Sarah. Like she had the fake cry in the interrogation, but he sounds choked up. I mean, I would be too. Obviously, it's your relative and your loved one. Um, does anybody know about her hitting the person? I think that's the first time that really registered with me that that actually happened. Let me know in the comments because then that's another rabbit hole I want to go down.
She hit him with the phone.
Okay.
He had a black eye, scratches all over his neck.
Would you see Sarah every time you saw George?
Off and on. Like, if I would go over there, I would see her with him. And then sometimes if he ever came here, I would see him. Or sometimes when I would go over there, he would just come out and I wouldn't see her.
So you more saw your brother than Sarah?
I think it was equal.
Equal?
Because I've seen her. Sometimes she had marks and stuff. So
and what do you mean by marks?
Like bruises and stuff too. They used to beat each other.
And where were her bruises be?
I've seen on her arm, black eyes too.
Okay. Did George ever confide in you about their domestic problems? Like, did he ever tell you? Is there anything else that he's ever told you about him and Sarah? Any arguments? Any physical altercations?
No, he didn't really like to talk about it like that. Like, everybody knew it.
Right.
Like, they used to come here and fight and stuff.
Okay.
And my mom wouldn't like it and tell them to go.
Right.
And I know one day she came, it's been like maybe like 2 months. My dad, because she always tried to hug everybody. Everybody didn't want to be hugging like that. And she pushed my dad, and my dad fell.
Yeah.
So.
Would they always, would Sarah always be intoxicated when you saw her?
Most of the time.
And what about George?
There was times he was not, he had drank, but he wasn't like drunk. Like, he would try to like eat and try to have her eat because they was always drinking so much. So he was like, we need to eat something. But
did you, like a couple of years ago, did you and your brother have any kind of a falling out? Did you guys get into an argument, a fist fight, or anything?
No. See,
has he gotten into a physical altercation with any of your brothers?
With Farrell, he did. The one that had the long hair.
The curly hair?
Yeah. With him, but it was just...
How severe of a fight was this, though?
Nah, brothers.
Did he
Anybody go to the hospital?
No, nothing like that.
Anybody have, like, bloodied lips, broken noses, anything like that?
Broken eye?
No.
Sorry to interrupt again. Okay, so just for context, this interview is taking place on the 26th. Sarah was arrested on the 25th. So this is after they've had the conversation with Sarah, and she alluded to like his occipital bone being broken by one of his brothers, and it had something to do with her. So yeah.
Oh, he had with my other brother too, with Mo. George had went to the hospital.
George went to the hospital.
Yeah, George.
It was a few years ago, 2 years ago, maybe 2.5.
That happened because, she said they was drunk. They was at my Mo's house, at Moses' house. That's the other one.
Moses.
His name is Moses.
Is it last name Torres?
Torres.
Okay.
He they had got into it because.
I'm going to stop that there because there's one other thing I want to show you guys. And then the Publix surveillance. So I asked for the surveillance video, but because it's surveillance, they said that they don't make that available publicly. But in the notes, in the big PDF that they sent, this is in here. This is the 123 pages I was telling you guys about. So wait, let me make sure you guys can see that. Yeah. Okay. Let me take that down so you can see, and then I'll zoom in a little bit more. Yikes. How does that look for you guys? Okay, you can see it. So public surveillance video. This is the day, February 23rd, the day that he got into the suitcase. They got the video on the 26th, which is also the day after. So you guys remember in the interrogation, Sarah said that George went to Publix without her. I remember this because she said it was cattywampers, which I had never heard that word before, to where he was picking up the cigarettes. And she was like, basically, he did it to sort of, be nice to her or whatever. But this is what we found out from the folks at Publix. So Detective Scott Lowen and I, so this is Chelsea who's writing it, Detective Chelsea Copsel, and I responded to Publix located at 4000 North Goldenrod Road, Winter Park, Florida, 32792. Forensic investigator Rough Garden found 2 separate Publix receipts. It says recipes, but I'm sure it's receipts for Chardonnay wine purchased on February 23rd, 2020 in Sarah's trash can. One receipt was on February 23rd, 2020 at 12:17 hours. And the second receipt was on February 23rd at 17:39 hours or 5:39. Detective Lowen and I met with Devin Jomro, who reviewed the secured video surveillance footage in the secured office the surveillance system was kept in. On February 23rd, sorry, I'm getting loud. I forgot the baby's asleep. On February 23rd at 12:17, George and Sarah are seen on video surveillance purchasing the Woodbridge Chardonnay wine bottle. On February 23rd at 17:39, only George was seen on video surveillance purchasing the Woodbridge Chardonnay wine bottle. He completed a sworn statement and downloaded on a USB. So why is that important? Well, one, Sarah said they didn't start drinking till 4. So if at 12:17 she and George went and got a bottle of wine, what happened to that bottle of wine? Because by 5:39, he's getting a second bottle, presumably for the both of them, right? So that blows her story out of the water. But I think this was another part of her blackout. She didn't remember it didn't transfer to her long-term memory. I'm not saying she didn't remember in the moment when it happened, but she didn't remember it so that she could retell it. Once somebody tells her that, like maybe it might spark something in her brain and it comes back. But she said they only got 1 bottle. And then she also said there was a half a bottle. Because remember, she was like, she kept going like this in the interrogation, like from way back. Well, we know these people are drunk every day starting at 9 o'clock. So how way back? Does she mean from Saturday? So I've been listening to these and marking it out. So at 12:17 on the 23rd, George and Sarah go to Publix. 4 o'clock, Sarah says they were both at home painting and doing whatever. 17:39, George goes back to Publix to get another bottle of wine. 18:30, Sarah and George work on puzzle. So this is like 6:30 now. Work on a puzzle and then they paint. At 19:30, George called his brother Juan. So that's what we just heard. 7:30 had called his brother. That's what we just heard. At 2100 hours, Brandon Moats returned to his apartment. Between 10:30 and 11 to 22:30 hours and 23, Brandon Moats heard a loud crashing sound that sounded like it started at the top and ended at the bottom of the stairs, and it had a big vibration that shook his wall. So at 11, right between 10:30 and 11, this happened. At 11:12, video number 1 was taken, and that's when the suitcase was upside down. And she's saying that's the longer video, and she's saying, nasty things to him. Wiggle around. I want to get a video. Extra. And then at 11:23, video number 2 was taken, and that time the suitcase has been flipped upright where the zipper is at the top, right? And there's a drag mark in the carpet, like she's been doing something with it. And her shoes have been moved, the little flip-flops. So she's saying around, and then we know at about 23:45, 11:45, she is calling Brian. She doesn't remember that. Presumably she's upstairs when this happens, and he gets her off the phone. He says she wasn't talking about anything, right? Then at 12 o'clock, she says she went upstairs. But again, because she called Brian at 11:45, it's more likely that she went up before that. Then the next day on Monday, 11 a.m., she says she goes downstairs. Probably went now, and also in this, she said that like George normally gets up at 6 a.m. every day. So at that point, she's not really looking for him. 11:25, Brian calls her, no answer. 12:21, Brian calls her, no answer. 12:49, Brian calls again. She answers and tells him George is dead. 12:54, she calls him. That's the first time she's called him that day. She's spoken to him before, but he was calling her, and she's asking him if he's on his way. Then when he gets there, she calls 911. So I just find that like super interesting. And she claims she didn't know to call 911, yet in their history, she's called 911 any other time things have gone awry. But this time she didn't think to call 911. It just sounds super sus.